Greetings, ASA members. As school begins for another year, I remind you that in our profession, students aren't the only ones learning. We must constantly be upgrading our knowledge also. So here goes. We're going to talk special education, third grade retention, school safety, and then some educational opportunities. As you return to school, update your knowledge on special education by reading some short articles from Ed Week. These are 10 brief updates on various issues, including some short takes by parents, students, and teachers. Your time is valuable, so note that these are brief. The link is in this message. Now let's go to the issue of student retention. Unfortunately, more and more states are jumping on the retain third graders bandwagon. Actually, 18 states now have this misguided policy. And you can see the map on the screen for which states those are. Florida really got this bandwagon going about 10 years ago. And some of its early state assessment results were promising, but later studies showed that this model did not yield what was hoped. In fact, in 2013, another detailed analysis of Florida's retention policy showed this, and now I'm directly quoting, "No definitive evidence that test-based retention in early grades is beneficial for students in the long run." And that's the key phrase, in the long run. It didn't deliver. One of the more recent states, Michigan, is taking the unusual step of studying whether or not its policy of third grade retention is actually effective. Why unusual? Because no other states who have this policy are actually studying whether it works. And that includes Arizona. We've had this policy for several years. Is the state having or conducting any long-term study to see if retention of third graders is actually effective? No. We're not studying whether it works. We're just doing it. Now let's look at school safety. Is your district looking at school safety upgrades? If so, you might want to consider this. A new federal clearinghouse is being established to recommend best practices. The only issue, of course, is there isn't really any good consensus as to what best practices in school safety are. No one really agrees, for example, on the value of metal detectors in schools. And you can read more on that at this link provided. Now, one consideration if you are investing. The School Violence Prevention and Mitigation Act of 2019, being debated recently in the House of Representatives and likely to pass, this would require that every school would have at least one silent alarm that would inform the closest law enforcement agency of any emergency situation. So think about that if you're investing. You may want to beat the crowd and be first in line. Now, some upcoming events. The ASA's first division meeting of the year is Monday, August 19th at our usual gathering place in Mesa. And remember, that meeting is streamed live, and the link to that live stream is with this message. That meeting will have updates from the Arizona Department of Education on the school grades, the releases, and the appeals. It'll also have ADE giving an update on the 5-year assessment plan. The Arizona State Board of Education will be in attendance. And they'll be talking about the grant funding for the SROs, the school counselor and social worker, the grant application process that'll go along with that, and the safety plan requirements that are a part of that process. And of course, there's the ongoing development of district letter grades. Yes, if we've got a bad idea giving schools letter grades, let's capitalize on that bad idea and extend it to districts too. Why not? Okay, finally at that meeting, you're going to hear a report from the American Cancer Society on Big Tobacco's push for vaping legislation. Yes, vaping legislation that will prevent us from actually controlling vaping and doing a better job of enforcing it in their schools. Yes, beware of the wolf in sheep's clothing. And that's big tobacco and their vaping legislation. That will be a big issue this year in our schools. They want to help us, right? Consider what that help will be. Also remember, this is the time of the year the sports seasons start, and with sports seasons we may have take a knee season as well. That means it's time to think about your reaction to athletes who may decide to take a knee or otherwise react during the national anthem. Now, some things to think about before you react to those athletes' actions. Is taking a knee disrupting the educational process? If not, that free speech is protected. A California federal court ruled in 2018 that school districts who have policies saying that is disallowed, those policies are not legal and they will not be protected in federal court. You can read 2 articles, and I have those links provided. The thing to do is think about this ahead of time and don't overreact to what athletes may do. As former President Bush, our first President Bush, said, it wouldn't be prudent. Don't overreact. Now, get advice on this and other legal issues in running your schools at the Principal and the Law Conference. That's September 19th. Join 300 of your colleagues at the Principal and the Law Conference September 19th. Now, another can't miss conference is the Superintendents in Higher Ed Conference, September 29th, 30th, and October 1st. And that conference is in Sedona, telling our story, opening doors. And high school administrators, you have a conference at the end of September. No, at the end of October. And that's the UNConference. See the ASA website for more details. And finally, we're doing great work in this state. It's time to think about honoring some of our colleagues who are. The Arizona Superintendent of the Year nomination process is open, and the Arizona Secondary Assistant Principal of the Year nomination process is open. Honor your colleagues. Let's work hard this year. Let's make it a great year for our students and our families in Arizona.